Hi, Emilia. Welcome to my Health Talk series. At the moment, you're based in Germany, right?
Yes, I'm in Germany.
Lovely. Can you tell us about...
specializing in positive psychology. So that's all about how to achieve better well-being, how to live a better life. So it doesn't focus on necessarily the getting rid of mental health problems, so treating depression or treating anxiety disorders. It's more about a psychology for everybody. So how we can achieve more well-being. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so let's start with the first question. Currently people, they react differently to stressful situation. What are the healthy ways to deal with distress during this novel coronavirus pandemic, during this lockdown?
So I think the first thing that we have to do is to become aware that the way we are feeling, the distress that we're feeling, is completely normal. Because anything new that is happening in our environment, our brain scans it as a threat. So this new situation is very threatening to our brain, and it's like, oh, what's happening? We need to be careful. We need to have all the resources we can get to escape the situation. So stress is a physiological response, so a bodily response that happens when we encounter something threatening. So stress is impersonal. It has nothing to do with you having something wrong about you or you being weird or something like that. It's completely normal. Stress activates something called the sympathetic nervous system, which gets us ready to go and ready to fight or run away from a situation. So that's why we feel our heart racing. That's why we breathe really heavily. Mm-hmm. And what we want to do is activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite. And there are various techniques and exercises that we can use to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So there are, I'm just going to mention a few. So relaxation exercises and breathing exercises that you can access on YouTube, for example. Then you can also do meditation. I mean, the focus on meditation is more about awareness that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It helps us relax. Mm-hmm. We can also do subtle and easy exercises such as yoga. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to get ourselves back to baseline and to make deliberate time for that, because we don't naturally do that. We're always in this hyperactive state, and we don't necessarily think, oh, now it's time to come back down to baseline.
Yeah, because they lose productivity and they don't feel like doing anything. So they should stay active.
So you can stay active, of course, but then also have a lot of, and that's the thing I wanted to talk about, have a lot of self-compassion. Yeah. So in positive psychology, self-compassion means being kind towards yourself in times of suffering. So treating yourself as you would a good friend. We often self-criticize ourselves for it. We might say, I'm the only one who's feeling this way. I'm not being productive enough. I'm not getting anything done. And just being kind towards yourself and saying, yes, this is a very stressful and difficult time. And because of the circumstances, no person has the ability to be their most productive self, to be their best self at the moment, because there's such a big thing standing in the room. Yeah. And we need to acknowledge that.
Mm-hmm. Embrace the changes, right?
Of course.
How to cope with the changes, what you would recommend?
Yeah. So when it comes to change, it's more about having, changing your perspective on what change is, because change for everybody is naturally scary, because it elicits the fight or flight response in our body, because anything that provokes, a new situation is seen as a potential threat. So it's naturally scary. But then change is also a way for personal growth and development. Without change, there would be no growth. You wouldn't advance. Totally. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it has also been shown that in the research that through traumatic events or through stressful events, we acquire certain strengths such as hope, optimism, and spirituality. So certain strengths can only be developed or strengthened through adversity. Seeing change as something positive and something that will develop you and strengthen you.
And also, I wanted to ask about dangerous pandemic, which is misinformation. And recently you heard Trump saying, inject disinfectants. Every word you say in the media, you don't know how people would react, what they would do. So yeah, what you would advise?
So that's a really good question, because we have to really look for serious sources, and that might take some time, that might take some research. But generally, if I usually watch TV, my family only watches TV, and in Germany anyways, the TV is a very reliable source of information, and they're very non-biased, and they provide good information. Of course, you have to really think about what country you're living in, what the news are really trying to convey you, but taking the time to find a serious source of information and sticking with that source of information only, with that channel only, is very good. And I also personally would recommend that if you're prone to anxiety, it's better to just have one single source of information that you can rely on, and not watching the news every single hour, but have one dedicated time a day where you get a summary, a 10-minute summary of what has been happening during the day, quick points. And another neat thing you can do is ask a family member or a friend of yours to give you a summary at the end of the day, 10 minutes, what has happened, because we all differ in how much we can take on. There's some people out there that are very resilient, and you're like, I'm watching the news and this does nothing to me, I can really handle this. But then some of us are really fragile and can't take that much on emotionally.
You could call this information diet, yeah?
Yes.
Briefly, one source to get confused. It's really amazing advice. Elderly especially, they suffer, it's very common, they have generalized anxiety disorder. So what to do during this situation, how to help them?
Anxiety disorder, when you start focusing only on the negatives, for example, and when you get all tensed up in your fuse and only see one side of the story. So what actually helps is to do a lot of self-reflection and to list the facts of having a balance. So let's say you can list 100 things that are going wrong and that are so bad and that, I can't handle it. Yeah. But then you should also take the time, 30 minutes of your day, 15 minutes of your day, to jot down everything that went well and all the facts. Is it really that bad? Is it really, consuming my life? So it's about getting a balanced view, because when we have anxiety disorders, we tend to catastrophize, decentering, stepping out of it. Mm-hmm. And trying to get an open perspective. And meditation has been shown to work wonders in that sense, to gain greater perspective and greater awareness. But then also, if you're feeling anxious and if it's overwhelming you in a given situation, reach out, call somebody, talk about it, let it out. And the internet allows us to reach out, and that is amazing.
Physical distancing should be not physical, right? I've heard that if you write down 3 things before you sleep, whatever things you've done during the day, and you felt like productive, the next day you wake up happy. Does it really work?
So the thing is that, yes, there are studies out there, and there are many studies that would suggest that gratitude exercises, like listing things that you're grateful for throughout the day, do lead to well-being over time. I don't think it happens overnight, but it has been shown that doing this for a week leads to greater happiness. But there are lots of exercises that have been empirically tested that we can do to just boost our well-being. Gratitude is just one of them, but there's also the what went well exercise, where you list 3 things that went well throughout the day and why they went well. It's kind of giving you a balance. We always focus on everything that didn't go well and all the mistakes we made, but we never list the things that did go well. So also envision our best possible selves. So writing down what that would look like, how we want to see us in the future, what does that feel like, what do we do? So that has been shown to increase well-being. We can write a gratitude letter. So someone we haven't thanked yet, or we always thought about thanking, we can write down what we're thankful for, what they have done for us, how they have benefited us. And you can either send it or not send it. It's up to you. Both things have been shown to be beneficial for well-being in the long run.
Yeah. Mindfulness to practice, it's very important. Some people perceive as, it's a vacation. Some, they feel like they have work overload. How to balance life and work during this lockdown?
Yeah, that's a big issue for most people because now that they don't have a set work environment, like most of us are at home, we're trying to do home office, we're trying to, get stuff done in an environment that is not normally work-related. So when we come home, our brain thinks, oh, this is a zone for relaxation. This is a zone for calming down, for spending it with family. In this space, I don't have to be productive. So oftentimes we get into this mental habit of this is vacation. I don't have to do anything in this space. So that's where the lack of motivation comes in. Mm-hmm. So what I would suggest is to have a structured daily plan. And it's so important to get back into a routine, to get back into daily habits. Make sure you get up at the same time every day. Make sure you have breakfast the same time every day. So you have certain things that don't change. Mm-hmm. And that's really good for your mental health, for your well-being. And then get office space in your home. Whenever you go to that space, your brain will notify you, okay, we're getting down to business, we're getting our work done. And, also if you're a morning person, have a time where you get your work done. So for example, from 9 till 11, that's when I sit down, that's when I get my stuff done. Mm-hmm. And of course, this has to be talked about with everyone you're living with. Let them know that, at this time I would like to get work done. If we can be quiet at this time, that would be perfect. And let them know what your routine is, let them know what your habits are. And that way you can all work around each other and you can get structure and routine, and motivation will come back again.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, the one thing is just to be understanding in this time. This is a very difficult situation, and it's something that we haven't dealt with before. So, of course, things are not going to be getting back to normal soon, but being understanding towards yourself and giving yourself compassion and kindness in this difficult time is immensely important because, the situation is stressful enough. We ourselves don't need to be packing on more stress on top of that. And trying to get a greater perspective. Who knows what this all is good for? Who knows what will come out of this? So just acquiring a positive mindset, being optimistic, and having a positive future outlook is important here.
Thank you very much for your time. And
yes, you're welcome.
I'm sure the listeners enjoyed it and they took great message from you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.